Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first reading from Bertrand Russell. Just want to say that these weekly videos will be something that I'll be doing. I feel like in an online class, you should have some kind of contact with your teacher, and this is part of it. Um, Now, I've taught dozens of online courses over the past 11 years, and I have hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel where I store them or I link them. Um, and I do believe that in many of the philosophy courses that I teach, because of the level of difficulty of the readings, that it is my obligation to do videos, sometimes quite detailed videos, helping students, walking them through the arguments, and and that's what I usually do. But these readings do not require that. That is, these readings are so well written, and they're written for a popular audience. They're not written for other philosophers. So there's no need for me to really help you read them. You can read them for yourself, and that's the whole idea of the course, is that you do read them for yourself. So I don't think that it would really be profitable for me or for you to go through these essays in any detail. I think that you will do that for yourself, and there's nothing that I need to really clarify for you. So what I'd like to do is to keep these videos short and to point out one or two things that I find particularly interesting or important, and leave it at that. I think that if we're to look at this essay, it's the first paragraph that I find really remarkable. And in a way, it sets the whole tone of this course. It's something that Russell says in his irony-filled, humorous first paragraph, and that's this: that it is undesirable to believe a proposition when there is no ground whatever for supposing it true. That is his, the theme of this course, you might say, and that is also critical reasoning, critical thinking. Critical thinking is wondering whether there are good grounds for believing something to be true, and if there aren't, then not believing it to be true. Or something to use an expression that Russell himself uses in this essay: suspending our judgment. And to a certain degree, that's what it means to be a skeptic, at least in Russell's way of being a skeptic, is simply if after a thorough investigation there are not enough reasons to either believe or disbelieve a proposition, to suspend your judgment, to hold your judgment. Now, of course, that can be very difficult. Um, and one of the great questions, another thing I would just point out, I found extremely interesting about this particular essay, was when he asks at the end a couple of questions um, about belief. And one of the questions he asks about belief is, well, he says, how far are beliefs derived from logically adequate evidence or capable of being so derived? And that, when he begins to ask that question at the end, he asks a couple of questions. One is, basically, the first part of the question is, how rational can we be? And that'll be a continuing theme in this course. The possibilities for human beings actually being rational, that is, only believing in things for which they have good evidence to believe. But the second question is really about how rational we want to be. And one of the things about Russell, who certainly would call himself a rationalist, as we will see, is he doesn't believe that we need to be rational in every aspect of our lives. He believes that there are aspects of our lives in which being rational is just missing the point. Um, but there are other aspects of our lives in which we are really called upon to be rational. It's at the bottom of page 19, where he says, under B, how far is it possible or desirable that they should be? That is, that our beliefs should be rational. That is, that our beliefs, in fact, should be based upon evidence. Just to maybe defend him from being overly rational, he realizes that there are some aspects of our lives in which, again, being rational is beside the point. That poets don't need to be rational and lovers don't need to be rational, but we don't want to be lunatics. That's his point. And he asks here at the end, is it possible to preserve the lover and the poet without preserving the lunatic? The lunatic is somebody who is delusional. And, being delusional as a poet might be good. Being delusional as a lover, to some extent, can be good. But you don't want to be a lunatic. How do we keep from being lunatics? Maybe is the whole theme of Russell and the whole theme of critical thinking. And he says something extremely interesting at the end, I think. He says, and this is at the bottom of page 24, our dealings with those whom we love may be safely left to instinct. That is, in our dealings with human beings, the ones that we feel affection for, our friends, our family, our compatriots, instinct is a pretty good guide. And then he continues, it is our dealings with those whom we hate that ought to be brought under the dominion of reason. And I think that is an extremely interesting and valuable insight. Those who we are told are our enemies, who are foreign to us, who we distrust in some way, those are the people with whom our relations should be governed by reason rather than instinct. He continues and says, in the modern world, those whom we effectively hate are distant groups, especially foreign nations. We conceive them abstractly and deceive ourselves into the belief that acts which are really embodiments of hatred are done from love of justice or from some such lofty motive. Only a large measure of skepticism can tear away the veils which hide this truth from us. Well, that seems to me to be a very valuable piece of advice.